Why aren't you the landlord? Yes, you. Why aren't you the landlord? Every day you go to and from work and you look up and you see apartment buildings, self-stores for
Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. The bells on bobtail ring, they make our spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Sleigh. A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lank, misfortune seemed his lot. He got into a drifted bank, and we got upset. Jingle open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Now the ground is white, so go it while you're young. Take the girls tonight and sing the sleighing song. Just get a bobtailed nag, 240 for his speed, then hitch him to an open sleigh and crack, you'll take the lead. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Good morning, everyone. We have two guest hosts this morning. It's going to be Todd Hudson and Dean Otto. They recently attended a really valuable mastermind event, and so we're going to kick off with that. And then right towards the end, we'll do some space for deals. So welcome, good morning, happy holidays. And Todd, Dean, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Hey, good morning, guys. Todd, I guess I'll just jump in. Are you there? Hey, we had just come back from a really great conference, I guess it was. It was more of a mastermind. It was a really interesting time. We're in Austin. We're invited to there's 3 different groups, and I was invited to the top 200 individual agents session, which was awesome. And, you know, obviously the benefit of these events is the networking. I mean, just meeting some incredible people, you know, sort of reigniting relationships since we haven't met for 2 years was a lot of fun. But it was an amazing networking event with all of the top agents there. It was awesome. And I was there 4 nights, and I probably had 4 of the best meals of my life. If you ever want to go have good food, Austin would be the place to go. It's amazing, incredible place. But the session was pretty fun. I'll be quick. You know, it was a really interesting session. It wasn't the typical. There wasn't a lot of strategy and, you know, specifics to our business, but they talked a lot about the fundamentals. And every time this year, Gary Keller goes through a set of 10 questions that he answers every year. And he uses the results of this 10 question survey, so to speak, to plan his next year, right? We're in our planning stage for the next year. And he kind of does a check-in when he does his planning. So I'm not going to, you know, don't write these down because we'll get these questions to you, but they're very interesting and they're very probing. And I think until you consider and answer these questions and find out a little bit more about yourself and who you are and what's important to you and what your priorities are, and you know, what you regret the most and all that kind of stuff, it's really almost impossible to plan your future, right? If you don't know who you are, how do you plan? plan ahead. And it was a really interesting session that was very fundamental in nature and very, as I say, probing and really got you thinking. But the 10 questions, and don't write them down because we get these to you, but basically the 10 questions were, who are you? I mean, what do you believe? And what do you hold to be true? Number 3, what motivates you? Number 4, why do you work so hard? Number 5, for you, when is enough enough? Number 6, what do you need to control over? What do you need control over? And number 7, what do you fear? Number 8, what regrets are you trying to avoid? Number 9, are you seeking the meaning of life, or do you bring meaning to your life? And who are you in the end of this? What's on your tombstone? And it was really interesting. He literally gave us the time to fill out each of these questions. And most people sit there with the most dumbest look on their face, not even having any clue how to fill this out. Some people were in tears. It was amazing, right? But it's a kind of a good point, man. I think, as I try to answer these questions, I realize that I don't know a lot of these answers. And I think that, as I press forward and try to improve next year, I realize that I have to pay attention to these questions. And, I think that a part of growth is establishing what is uncomfortable for you. What do you avoid? What are the things that you don't like? And those are the things that we try to take down every year in order to get better. So kind of a good exercise. And I think it would be worth all of your while to sit down for 10 minutes and try to fill it out and get some direction on your life and what's important to you. And the truth is that it changes every year, right? So Gary Kelly looks at the past years and he sees how his answers have changed and allows him to reshape his goals for next year. Kind of makes a lot of sense, right? And he kind of went on to talk a lot about the Keller Williams model.
Dina, I accidentally muted you.
How about now?
There you go. You're back.
Okay, I'll shut up. Just tell me, man. But I think ultimately he talked a lot about the model, the Keller Williams model of leads, listings, and leverage. And I think that most of us here are individual agents. I can tell you one thing that I thought was really interesting. He said very early on, the very first thing he said to the individual agents, he said he doesn't know a lot about the individual agents. This is all new for him. But what his research has showed him is that 99% of the successful individual agents are listing agents. So, man, I tell you, that's to me, I mean, it's all about listings. If you didn't think it was, it definitely is. And even more so if you're going to be an individual agent. And if you think about that, just the simple idea of, I've had 40 listings at one point. There's no way that I could be working with 40 active buyers. But I can work with 40 active listings. And if you have intention of scaling your business up and growing a great big business, it's probably going to be through getting listings. And I think that's ultimately what his research on how individual agents have become successful is 100% based on the fact that they're all listing agents and go for listings. And we can talk about that on another session because that'll take forever. We talked a lot about goals. And I think that one of the things that he was very insistent on is that goals are actually not that great because there's a ceiling on a goal. He said, you never want to put a ceiling on yourself. Goals are actually, should be, not did you hit your goal, but did you meet your potential? And I think that was important for me because I'm always so into, lately in the last 4 years or so, always trying to set goals and trying to hit those goals. And, I think ultimately what I realized is when I set my goal last year, that at the end of this year, I hit my goal. But what I realized is that other people that were doing more than me, so I actually probably set it too low, right? And I think that he says, it's like I'm a vegetable gardener, right? So he said, don't put yourself in a pot because that just limits your growth, and don't put a ceiling on yourself because that's just cutting yourself off. And we never know when we can surpass it. Like I would have this year, in my opinion, had I set my goal higher. So I think that's important. It's not about the goals, but your potential. And he talked all day long about no one exceeds alone. I mean, there was a really big push for leverage in our business. He said that he actually went as far as to say that we're fools as individual agents if we don't believe that leverage is the answer to our business. In other words, he says you'll eventually run out of time. And I agree with him, we do. I mean, I kind of ran out of time, but I think that for individual agents, he's talking about you can stack admin to grow your business, you don't need to necessarily be on it. Teams are awesome and they're killing it and they're great. Not everyone's made to be on a team, but if you're not, he had some pretty good advice for us. But he did call me a fool, and I thought that was interesting. He also said that our goals, and my goal has always been to achieve happiness and stress-free. That's always been my goals. Originally, it was financial goals, and I realized that that's not a real goal. That's just a way to get to your goal. But what he said was interesting is that, yeah, your goal is not to be happy. Your goal is to be fulfilled. And I think that was an important thing for me too, because as I answered those questions in the beginning, what was important to me is to have fulfilling experiences, relationships. I want to feel fulfilled. I don't want to necessarily just feel happy, right? But there was some very fundamental stuff up there. And so ultimately my goals, the result of this session was that my goals have shifted for next year to the pursuit, to not the pursuit of happiness, but the pursuit of fulfillment. And my goal is not a goal anymore, it's going to be my potential. So those are my two big takeaways. Let's see, there was something else that I wanted to share. Okay, just three kind of unusual takeaways that I had from this, which I thought were really interesting. He was very open and honest throughout this entire session. It was just a conversation. It really wasn't scripted. It wasn't strategy. It was just him and I talking, not him and I, but him and a group of us sharing. And it was really interesting. And a couple takeaways that I thought were interesting is that he does not recommend cold calling, which I thought was interesting. That was a little bit of a shocker to me. He also said that if you're trying to break into luxury, and that if you're desperate to get in, he said, take the listing for zero commission and have him sign an NDA to not disclose. I was shocked. I mean, I about fell off my chair when he said that. It was interesting because I've always been, you just do not do that, right? And I think our company policy is to not do that. But it was kind of interesting, you know, because I think people were like, how do I break into luxury? Or how do I raise my price point? And he was like, well, take the listing for free if you have to. I was like, what? That's it? But I'm certainly not recommending that. I'm just saying it was really interesting that Gary Keller would say that, right? And then also my third takeaway was that you're a fool if you don't take advantage of leverage. He said time is money, and that if you're not hiring someone to do it, you're spending the money anyway doing it. So leverage is a big part of the business. And if you're an individual agent like myself, you can stack admin and keep yourself in the front line, but also there's the option of leveraging yourself through a team, right? So that was just a few of my takeaways. You know, it was an interesting session in the sense that it wasn't a lot of advice and a lot of strategy, but there was a lot of fundamental thinking going on. And I think it's important to step back every year, this time of the year, and look at how your priorities have changed, how your situations have changed, what's important to you has changed. And then you can plan your goals for next year, but you really can't do it until you know who you are. You can't plan your future if you don't know who you are, right? Anyway, I am going to shut up. Unless there's any questions, and let Todd take over. I see some chats. Let's see. Todd, why don't you jump in?
Sounds good. Thanks, Dean. It seems that the top 200 for individual and the top 200 for teams was really close in a lot of the things he was trying to bring out to us. And it was, unfortunately, it was in person. Unfortunately, I have a lot going on this month, so I couldn't make it in person. And I was very fortunate that they did allow me to Zoom in. But I will tell you, it was a different feel than any of the other meetings that we've ever done. You could tell everybody was just super stoked to finally be able to be together. The energy was kind of off the wall. Even being on a Zoom, it was amazing. Just how people were answering, how people were replying, the thought-provoking things that that Gary was bringing out. I did put on the 10 questions. It is on our Keller Williams Facebook private page. So you guys can take a look at that if you want to know, if you want to have those questions right away, but I know we're going to get those out. And, to bring up the point where Dean was saying the 10 fundamental questions and why they were so thought-provoking, he didn't want you to just spit out an answer. He really wanted you to sit and dwell upon that answer. When he said, who are you? And there was a couple people that spoke up and says, I'm a parent. I'm a realtor. He says, no, that's not what he's looking for. He wants to know who you are, for you to be able to answer internally who you are. How are you going to make your place in this world? So it really there were some people that were actually crying about it, especially some of the ways he really broached some of the subjects. He was not looking for, no one was answering these really out loud. He really wanted everyone to be really thought-provoking, really think about how you're going to reply and to internalize it. And he does this every year. I never thought about it. I mean, we always are game planning for the future and figuring out what we're going to put our goals in place. Don't think of it that way. He said, don't have limiting beliefs. And that really struck a chord. I've always thought I wanted to achieve something, but I wanted to do it better than anyone else could do it. That's a big thing that motivates me, and that's always what I wanted to do. So, I had to think about the goals I had in place for this year, absolutely destroyed them all. And it was a big mistake on my part for not thinking much higher, much, just bigger. I mean, this is probably one of the best years I've ever seen in real estate when it comes to the market, for sure. We may not see a market this strong for a long time until the next cycle comes through, or maybe next year is even better. I mean, that's a distinct possibility, but it won't matter. Our limiting beliefs are the only thing that will ever hold us back. So we're going to have our team meeting tomorrow. We've already come up with new game plan of what we're looking at to achieve for next year. But that's just where we want to achieve. And even if we fall short, we'll still beat things that we've done in the past. And I think that's the thought, is to keep growing no matter what. Always don't stop at a certain point, because as you start to get closer to the numbers you may put ahead of yourself for the year, you're going to get a little lazy probably. You're going to be like, oh man, it's a good year. I'm going to kick back and I'm going to just kind of cruise to the end of the year. Don't. Keep it going. Don't take the foot off the gas. Gary said this, I don't know if he said this in Dean's one, but he wants to make sure when he dies, he has no gas in the tank. He wants it to be where he feels he accomplished everything he wanted to, everything that was possible. And his big thing is now he wants to teach. He wants to bring new ideas to every agent that's out there. FYI, Keller Williams is absolutely 100% going to go towards going public. He made that very clear to everyone. We are going to go public. It's probably not going to be to the very earliest at the end of next year, because they have to do 4 quarters of accounting. So it is something that's going to happen. He was very transparent and actually apologized about Command. He says the people that he had working on Command originally dropped the ball. They pulled the wool over his eyes. They took a lot of money from them, and that's why he replaced a lot of his interior staff that was in charge of that stuff. So he recognized that he made a mistake. It was quite human. It was interesting to see people in those power plays or in those power positions sometimes may have an issue with that. So it was really cool to see him be very vulnerable, I would say. Dean, would you agree he was the most vulnerable you've ever seen him?
Yes, for sure. I think for sure, yeah. And you made a good point about he wanted to die with an empty gas tank. And what he means is he wants no regrets, right? Yeah. So what he's saying is every year he tries to figure out what those regrets are that he's trying to avoid, so that he can go ahead and enjoy it and tackle them now, not wait till he's dying or regret. Which is really kind of interesting. Every year he kind of looks at his regrets and he uses that as a planning tool.
Yeah. The other thing is, he said the company has always been a company that shares ideas. And what it does is it really helps us all to get better. get stronger. I love what he said. Teaching is also learning. I mean, think about that. That is great. So if you're out there and you put yourself out there, maybe you've learned some tricks, you've learned some different ideas. I know like people like Nicole Burns, she loves to teach. We have Lee Potts loves to go out and teach. Keone loves to teach. I know Dean does a lot of teaching. I do a lot of teaching. Michelle does a lot of teaching. But I'll be honest, I'm sure all of those people will tell you, as we teach, we learn as well. So we get ideas. I mean, I love when I'm in a class and people are coming back with comments back and forth. I'm like, oh, heck yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put that into my agenda. So I learn as much as I can from people when I'm teaching. And I would tell you, I don't think I've ever taught any class that had people actually going back and forth responses where they didn't say something that I just didn't think about. It was like, oh, wow, brand new way of looking at things. So I took more than anything that I really need to think bigger. I need to stop certain belief processes. I've had the belief process that I had to go out and bring somebody in from scratch and train them the industry to be successful. Different way I'm going to start doing my team and how we're going to bring it up. Scale is important. Leverage is by far the most important thing, especially that's what I got out of that more than anything. Leverage is how massive success occurs. He must have said that 20 times during our meeting. And he just really wanted that point to be put in place. So y'all think about that. Couple of things that means, and you guys can feel free to jump in on a question if you have on that. If you have, give me 1 second, I'll answer that. If you are spending money, you need to make sure that you are netting at least $1 more for that to be a good hire. And anytime you're doing that leverage, it should be one of two things that the leverage produces for you. More net money, more net profit, or more time for you. If that is not occurring by either one of those things, there's no reason to make that hire. So those are the only two reasons you should ever make a hire. Give you more free time or free you up, or to make you more net money. That's it. So think about that. As you're moving forward, nobody, especially the individual agents, it's impossible. I don't want to put a limiting belief out there. You can do much better and you can leverage your time better by having interior staff that helps you produce more. Like, I'm surprised how many agents still don't have a transaction coordinator. And I really, truly believe that's a big mistake. If you're doing more than just 5 deals in a year, go get a transaction coordinator. They will take so much off of your plate. Not only stress, they will make sure the file is done correctly. You follow the guidelines, because what will happen as this market starts to get deeper and deeper to the end, you will have sellers that will say, we've been in escrow for 45 days and I think we can get more money now. Mr. Agent, find me a way to get out of the contract. I've already started to see it on some of our deals. I'm going to tell you, anybody who's been in this business long enough, especially in that 2005, 6, 7 range, will also tell you sellers will start to become, I don't want to say greedy is the right word, but they will definitely see that the bottom line can get bigger. So it's our job.
I'll say greedy, Todd. That's the correct word. They're getting greedy, and it's already happening.
Yeah, and it's going to continue to happen. I promise it's only going to get worse. This is how every cycle works. So you got to remember, while our client is our buyer or our seller, please remember the other agent that we are playing in the sandbox is just as important, if not more important, than that client, because those are the people that you're going to be building your career with. And I promise you, if you do them dirty, they're going to remember that, and they'll still do deals with you. But when it comes to doing a deal with me or a dirty agent, just using that as an example, The agent's gonna say, hey, Todd, we have another offer. Our seller would definitely prefer to work with you, but we're gonna need a little bit more to make this deal work. The right way to do it. And you're working with professionals, and your seller deserves that opportunity as well, or buyer, either way, how you look at it. So I think those are things to really keep in mind as we're moving forward, is how important leverage is and limiting beliefs. I think those are the biggest things I took out of it. What else? That's about it. And I know there was a question. Let me get to the question real quick.
Can I just respond to leverage too?
Please.
Because we're like in opposite camps, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm the individual agent that doesn't use leverage to grow my business as much, right? Because I'm an individual and I'm a listing agent. And so there are groups out there that are netting 8% of their income. They're spending so much money trying to create business for their team. So don't get stuck in that deal of, I got to have a bunch of people around me and spend a bunch of money on it. This is not the case. I have a half-time assistant and a transaction coordinator, and I'm going to sell $80 million this year in volume. It's totally possible. It's not only about leverage. Leverage is when you like a buyer's agent. Like if you're a buyer's agent and you wanted to have a career in this business, I think you're great for a team. If you want to be a listing agent, that's an opportunity to be an individual agent. But leverage is important when you need leverage and there's a demand on your time that you need to have someone else to fill that gap. But I wouldn't go out and rush out and hire a bunch of people and end up with a 38% net income, which is what most of these teams are netting. It's pathetic. I'm netting 91% of my income, and I'm selling, a fair amount. So it's, it is possible. There are two different ways to do it, but I would and when it comes to leverage, I would just be careful about jumping in too quickly and spending a lot of money without the need being there. The other thing I wanted to mention is we always thought that the first hire that anyone should ever hire would be a personal assistant, which I think is the case. But it was interesting, Gary Keller said, no, the first hire should be a coach. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because for me, the 4 years of my 3 years of coaching have completely rocked my world, tripled my income, changed my life. And so to me, that was kind of an important point, and it re-emphasized how important the coaching has been in my life, not just in my real estate business, but my life completely. And I've done a complete 180 in the last 3 years. So I think that's a good point. A coach is a really great way to start and grow a career, knowing what you're doing. It's like playing golf. You don't go out there and just flail away on the range. You go to a pro, you learn the way to do it, and you go out and practice the way to do it. Sorry, Michelle?
To your point about spending money, I think our agents want to really refocus on the models and the systems of MREA, which red light, green light is one of the foundational models. So I myself practice this, and I don't take on long-term debt. I don't take on really short-term debt either, but it's when I have a closing, if there's something that I think will help my business, like an assistant or a coach, or TC earlier on, then I set a percentage of that money aside according to the model of reinvesting in your business. So I'm not spending money to make money. I'm taking proceeds and reinvesting. And I think if our agents don't spend until they have, it will keep them out of trouble. And we are being bombarded with emails of services and software and programs. And I always say, use what you already pay for. Use your resources at the state and NAR for different buyer seller resources. Use your Keller Williams resources, be it Command or other technology tools, information. You already pay for these and it costs you nothing. Thanks.
Absolutely. I think every agent who wants to be successful should read this a minimum of once a year. This is a blueprint of how to be successful. Exactly, Michelle. It is a blueprint of how to be successful. I will tell you, things have been going haywire in my world as of late, just going crazy. I decided to bring it all the way back down again and go right back to basics and fundamentals. And I do want to apologize because Dean said probably the most important thing is I'm not saying go out and spend money, because we are bombarded nonstop with those emails. Hey, come do this and we'll give you a listing. Hey, we'll do, we'll guarantee you this. It's all, ready for this? Bullshit, guys. Seriously. End of the day, that's all it is. You need to focus on what you have in hand and work those opportunities first. And once you have hit the maximum potential at that point, that's when you go out and you bring either somebody in or you bring somebody to help leverage your time. So Dean is absolutely right, correct. He is the model of being a successful team. And I'm blown away by how many people, they don't watch their money. They don't play red light, green light with their money. For the MREA book part 2, Streamline Tax Services, who is pretty much in line with Keller Williams, they're using my model. I'm at a 48% profitability margin, which is one of the highest for a team. Gary made it clear, your team should not be less than 30%, 33% being able to take your money off of that, being where your profit margin is, unless you're scaling to the point where that you're still netting well more money. You have to be strategic in the way that you're spending money. And yes, Dean at 80 million with 4 deals is awesome. But no, I mean, it's true. I thought, I was blown away exactly like Dean did when he said, you got to be able to go out there and compete and keep your name going as fast as possible. And even though commissions are probably going to start getting even tighter, we're seeing a lot of 2% commissions on the MLS. I'm sure you guys are noticing that as well.
I think a great response to commission reduction. I was in a coaching session. Everyone wanted to know how I responded to someone when they wanted me to reduce my commission, and because it's a lot of pressure in Santa Barbara apparently. And I told them that, I'll say, what I do is, if someone says to me, I want you to reduce your commission 20%, I said, well, my broker is going to require that you sign an indemnification against a future lawsuit against us, because ultimately we're not just providing a certain amount of time that we're working for you, but we provide layers of risk protection. We have responsibility, we have liability, we're liable for the entire purchase price amount. So if you want me to discount my commission, I'm expecting you to give me an indemnification that you'll defend us in the event that there's a lawsuit on this transaction in the future. And that's normally the last time I ever hear anything about commission reduction, because no one wants to do that. So that's a good one. I mean, we shouldn't be selling ourselves when we are faced with a commission reduction. We should be selling ourselves up front. This is what we do. I tell people, I said, I am protection for you. This is what I do, and I'm going to protect you, and I provide a layer of protection. I have a huge liability and risk for this $10 million deal. That's my risk. And so I take it seriously. If you don't, then great, you'll be willing to indemnify me from a future lawsuit, because I'm not going to commit to that level if you can't commit to me. And I think it's a good distraction from how much time have you spent on this transaction? You haven't really earned anything, and deflect it to something like that. And if that's something you want to use, you can always have them call me and I'll back you up.
Yeah, well, we had Sarah Reynolds. I don't know if anyone knows who Sarah Reynolds is, but I definitely highly suggest take a little Google research on her. This is an agent who has blown herself up. She's amazing. She's a super strong agent. She does a ton. And the one thing she asked, and it was a really pointed question that everybody just really paused about: who works harder, a listing agent or a buyer's agent? Now, as a listing agent, I'm sure myself, Dean, Lee, and some others are going to go, listing agents. Hell no. Come on, guys. Buyer's agents are working so much harder. Sometimes they're showing 7, 8, 12, 30, 50 properties to get somebody into escrow. So why, as a buyer's agent, are you discounting yourself and not talking to your client up front? Here's a great option, because I promise you guys, as it gets closer to the end of this cycle, you're going to see a lot of 4.5 commissions. It's going to keep happening. So you, as a buyer's agent, really should think hard and script practice this of talking to your buyers and say, hey guys, here's how, this is what's going on in the marketplace. This is how I am compensated. I only work for 3%. Whatever the seller is willing to pay, excellent. We're going to subtract it out. but you're going to have to bring that into. And she's at, I think Sarah Reynolds is at 3.5% average for her buyer's agents, 3.5% average. They do some other tricks that we won't be able to get, I don't believe we're allowed to get away with in our marketplace or in Maui, but bring in an offer and you send the co-op with it that says, we're willing to pay above your asking price because it's a competition war, but because of that, you're going to have to pay the commission of this. I don't know if that's legal. It's something for Michelle to talk with our attorneys about, but there's other realtors that are doing this and they're starting to do that in this marketplace because of the reduced commission. Like California, especially San Diego area, San Francisco area, they're doing 1%. Holy crap, that's horrible. But end of the day, we can have these conversations with our buyers. And if we properly prepare them and we have script practice this out, we should be able to get the commission that we deserve if we're as a buyer's agent. So
Or become a lazy listing agent like us.
yeah, exactly. Lazy listing agent. We only got to do 400 showings and, have everybody compete against each other.
But that's exactly what I was saying in the beginning. I mean, you can grow a business much quicker through having listings. And so for me, from day one, when I started this business, went after listings from day one. Most people have given up on farming, but there is a way to do it. And there is a strategy that's not expensive, that is very hyper-focused, that will get you into the listing game. I'd be happy to share with any of you. If you're interested, you can give me a call. But there is a strategy. It doesn't cost a lot of money. I do it every day. My net is 91%. I'm not spending a lot of money, but I have extremely high focus on what I'm doing. And I go really deep into that focused area and provide real value to my clients. Farming is not just sending out a random letter. It's sending out letters consistently for 5 years. It's having a website that those people can go to. When they get your letter, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go, let me look online and see what this person's all about. And then that's really where the sale happens. And so you have to, if you're going to farm, you have to have a website, in my opinion, dedicated to that farm area. So that when you tell those people, go, I'm an expert on your neighborhood, go check out my website, they're going to go there and go, oh my God, this is the Kapalua website. You must be a specialist in Kapalua, right? And I can prove it. I'm providing value. And I've every sale in the last 20 years on my site and every bit of information about everything in that community, including the restaurants and everything else, so that they know when they want to find out about the community, they can go to my site. And so until you have that level of value to offer someone in a farm program, you're not really farming. But I'd be happy to share with what I'm doing, because I think it's very targeted, very focused, and anyone can do it because it doesn't really cost anything. And if you want to grow your business in the long run, you're going to have to be a listing agent. So might as well get on track now, starting that program. Not that you aren't all experienced already, but it's just the way it works. And we figured out a strategy and a formula that can work. And I think it's through hyper focus and providing real value in what you're doing.
I think Dean is selling himself.
Don't get me started, man.
Dean is selling himself short, guys. He is a master of working his sphere. An absolute master. He is.
I'm not a master, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, you talk with your clients so much. You have that one-on-one time a lot with them. They know you. You don't disappear after you close their deal.
Well, I'm not targeting 1 million people. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
I'm so focused in on what I'm trying to do. If you target so many people, you'll never get that traction. So you have to scale it down to where you can actually get that engagement. I don't care how big it is. It could be one building, it could be one neighborhood, but you have to have that win in that neighborhood. You can never have huge success until you have an initial win, right? They say it all the time. You got to have a small win before you can have a big win. That's just fact. So identify what your niche is going to be, what that small win is going to be, and it could be very small. And you need to go take them down one neighborhood at a time. That's the only way you can grow a big business and grow a listing business, is by becoming established in something, so people know you for success in something. And it could be one building, as I say, but you're never going to go out there and go, I'm going to be an expert on Maui luxury real estate. That'll never happen. Or it could happen, but it'll only happen if you can hit it small success first and leverage that success into bigger things. For me, I've been farming for 25 years. And when I try to break into a new market, I'm still leveraging my initial farm that I won over in my first 10 years in the business in Kapalua, right? So that was my initial farm. I lived and breathed it for 10 years, and that's all I did, and never sold the property outside of Kapalua. But 20 years later, when I'm trying to break into Laniopoko, people will consider me because they know I had that success and initial success. So the question is, what's your first win going to be that you can leverage for the rest of your career?
Yeah, I love that you said that.
That was a
Dean.
mouthful. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. I think the dean is basically telling you, you need to be able to crawl, walk, then run. You know, he took one portion, mastered it, and started to build it out. And here's a great example. Hanua Kai, I'm gonna use a complex that was 680 units, 660 units. If you mastered Hanua Kai, and you did, because Hanua Kai actually is one of the complexes that averages right about 18% a year in sales. So if you do the math on that, that's almost 100 units, about 100 units a year, right? It's a big number, massive number. If my math is right, could be off. But if it's 100 units a year, and let's say you want to be the master and you just did 30%, that's 30 deals in Hanua Kai with an average price of $1.8 million. I don't know, pretty good number to me. So you take one thing, master it, learn it. You know, myself and Lee have put on classes for open house so many times and teaching how to learn a neighborhood, how to be able to know your inventory. And I'm blown away by how many people don't sign up to come to those classes and they just try to wing it. Why? I mean, we're out there to help build you guys up, to help you grow. Take advantage of some of the masters at this company. We have some ridiculously good agents. We have somewhere around 10 agents plus. They're doing 50 million a year so far, Michelle, is that correct? I mean, that's insane.
Yes.
Is that right? 10? I think I
Yes.
saw it was at 14-ish right now, but right, I mean, that's pretty ridiculous numbers. You know, the average agent is a little bit higher than it's been in the past, but you know, still you got just in our company alone, probably half of the 1%ers that sell.
And to put that in context, when they did the top 100 statewide, the number one agent in the state 2 years ago was topping out at 30 million. So to have 10 agents in our company in that 50 million range, part of that is the market. Part of it is implementing systems and models. And so I keep going back to the MREA model. Todd's featured in the book, and it's replicated thousands of times across the country where agents have been able to not only be successful in their businesses, but build personal wealth. So listen to these two. They know what they're talking about.
Hey, Dean, everybody wants to have your phone number so they can call you. You opened up Pandora's box. So you want to give your phone number out for everyone?
My phone broke, sorry.
Well, in that case, I'll tell you.
Hold on, let me think. Let me write it down.
Dean, how about if we just schedule a time that you could do a mastermind, a group mastermind Zoom, so you don't have to repeat yourself 335 times. Maybe we could schedule that before the end of the month.
Sure.
As everyone's doing their business planning. And Ray, you can coordinate with Dean to set that up.
Yep, Ray, I'm gone from the
Maybe
10th to the 17th, but any other time.
Awesome.
I'll
Any other
great.
questions that Dean or myself can answer for anyone? Speak up if anybody wants. I think everybody's allowed to unmute on their. Yep.
Awesome. I have a question. Thanks. Thanks guys very much for sharing your insights today. I was curious around the commission when you talked about how some agents are taking 4%. It was because I went on a listing appointment the other day, and we had some of the sellers were like, oh yeah, you know, agents in our town. And so they were like in California somewhere, and they were saying how agents in their town do it for 4%. And they're like, yeah, and they do staging and photography and everything. And so it's like to hear that somebody in their town or where they're from did it for 4% with all the bells and whistles. It's like, how do I respond to that? You know? So I was just curious if any thoughts on that.
Dean's probably a little bit different, is he has a lot more higher end ones, so maybe it's a tad easier to work it out and explain to them, hey, you're getting a quality service. Whereas I produce numbers, I produce a high number of units. To me, it's a complete business decision. And the only reason I would ever take a discounted commission, this is me personally, and when I say discounted, that means under 5%. Even 5, it used to be only 5% was discounted, but unfortunately the marketplace has changed, is can I leverage that to one of two things? Is it in the neighborhood I farm? Because that's really important, especially if I have dominancy already. I want to make sure that nobody else gets a chance to get their foot in. So to me, it's a business decision based on I don't want somebody else trying to come in and touch my business. And two, then I just do the numbers and see if it's worth it. I don't think 4% commissions are worth it for me at this time. I will not lie though, I have lost 3 commissions. I've lost 3 deals just in the last month because I wouldn't take 4%. Business decision for me. So you have to make that, you have to look at everything that's going to take to do. But if you have to stage a house, staging a house in California costs $300 to $500. Staging a house on Maui, you're gonna be lucky to get anything less than $1,000. And I mean, that is cheap at $1,000. So you gotta make a decision. Is it priced so well that it's gonna get into a bidding war? And maybe that makes sense for you. It's a super easy deal. But how about this scenario? Why not say, I'll do the commission at this price, but if we get above this price, you agree to raise commission to this amount. Maybe that's one objection handling. And again, everybody needs to make this as their own business choice, but I'm happy to sit and talk with you if you have questions on it. Dean, you want to tell us how?
Yeah, I think just one quick thing, Michelle, but because I don't have a lot to add, I think it's a personal decision. I think everyone has to come up with their own pitch because it's going to be different. Right? For me, I try to leverage results. You know what I mean? And use that as like, hey, you know what? I'm getting results. This is why I'm getting them. But I think that ultimately the sale has to be upfront of what it is. The first thing we have to do is sell them on what it is all that we're doing, so that when they come up with the 4% in California, say, well, if this was California, that'd be great. But this is what we do here, and this is the value that I provide to you. And focus in on what it is that you do to provide, and that this is not California, so we can't really compare. I don't know anything about it. You know what I'm saying? So you have to come up with your own pitch because everyone has their own reasons. For me, I would go production and say, hey, look at my production. You know, you can get cheaper, yeah, but you can't always get the production. So it depends on who you are and what your pitch is, but you have to come up with your value. It's a little bit about who you are. What are you offering? What's your why? Why are you doing this? And I think those are the questions we talked about earlier, those fundamental questions, so you can build a pitch on what it is you're providing them that's so great. And it's got to be a personal thing.
Yeah. And one thing to add before Michelle does, the reason people in California sometimes will take a reduced commission as well, and on Oahu, is they're allowed to go 30 to 60 days, coming to market, coming soon. Maui, we're not allowed to do that. We have 24 hours. By the second we have it out, it must be on the MLS within 24 hours. So in California, it could be a leverage play for them as well, because they can gather buyers. More importantly, they may never have to do pictures. They might not have to do anything because it sells so fast, and they're able to put coming soon. So if anybody has some of the higher end agents in California on their social media, watch. Almost everything is a 30-day coming soon, and that's a big ploy for them. And
I think that's a good point, Kelly. You can point out the difference. You know, California operates differently. You know, they do that because they probably sell it before it's listed, and then you can drop it. You know, you don't have to get into all that detail.
Yep.
But it just point out the difference. This is not California. We're not going to pre-sell it. We're not allowed to. So, but anyway, Michelle.
So if you want to take a listing below 5% as a starting point, you need to get approval through the brokerage. So I have already started the discussion at our next owners meeting. We're going to revisit this topic because the market is shifting and there is more competition and commissions are being driven down. A couple things that you can say is, Mr. Seller, if I reduce my commission right off the bat when you ask me to, What kind of negotiating are you going to get from me when we get an offer on the table? Is that the position you want me to start from? Just saying yes and reducing it, because that agent is also going to get you less money statistically, number one. The other thing is that I lost my thought. Okay, well, it'll come back to me. It was about reductions. The market is shifting. You want to know your value, and I remember now. If some agent says, I'll do it for 3%, I'll do it for 4%. Well, that's great on paper, but what if you never get to closing? You need that experience and track record of production. Commission only matters if you get to the end of the game and money in your pocket. So statistically, who's closing their deals? And I think that is a leverage point that's, really profound, is start to speak to that, because I can say any number under the sun. That doesn't mean I'm going to get the job done.
Carol, you wanted to say something or have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to say, as a Keller Williams, also California agent, the average commission would be 5%, not 4%. So I think that person just happened to find somebody that's desperate for a sale or something, but on the average, it's not 4% here.
Okay, thank you. Steve, you want to?
So I think they're exaggerating.
Thank you.
Yeah, so just real quick, this is a little kind of a takeaway strategy. Work sometimes, could also backfire, but that's like, if you're looking to save money on commissions, don't stop at 4%. There are people on the MLS that'll do, service only for $500, but that's not what you're getting with me. What you're getting with me is pop, my value proposition, and you're in that more, right? All that, but just a quick 2 cents.
So, I think you guys are missing the boat, and you're going to see that we're going to get reduced commission. I went against an agent, and she is a freaking superstar agent up country, and she took a listing at 3.5%. So I get what everybody's saying. I'm in the trenches 24/7, 7 days a week. It is happening, guys. You're going to have to figure a good script to counteract what's happening. And when I tell you she's a superstar agent, she has been closing, I don't think I've ever seen her close less than $25 million in business since I've been in business a year. And she is a single agent. So I'm telling you, it is happening and it's going to happen. So you do got to start getting stronger with scripts, but you got to provide value. That's the other thing, is you need to have value. I have a tremendous amount of value that I bring to my clientele, in particular, my database. I still am averaging over 20% double ending my deals. So they don't even come to market a good chunk of my deals, and I put it in with somebody in my database. And the way this works is I can explain to them, hey, I've hit my database, I've hit my entire Keller Williams before it's hit the market. If I double end the deal, we're willing to do a commission at this price instead of that price. And that's a selling point, and that gives a lot of value. And there's still a lot of people that don't have transaction coordinators. So I say, hey, you get the availability of having transaction coordinator on both sides. We get to, play in our own arena, so we know who we're dealing with. So you do have to have value. And I think everybody needs to really look inside and figure out what value we are providing. I will tell you one value that I think is the number one thing I laugh at listings are, when I see an agent use this to take a picture. I think it's an absolute joke, and you're doing an absolute disservice to your client. You're doing a disservice to your brand and a disservice to Keller Williams by not using a professional to do your photography. Now, if you are a professional photographer, or you have taken 100 classes on iPhone and Droids to take pictures, great, another scenario. But you guys, I'm sure, see what I'm talking about on the MLS. So, and remember, a $200,000 listing is like a massive listing in Detroit. So please don't discount and say, well, it's only a $250,000 listing, and that's why I'm going to do a disservice, because you are doing a disservice by doing that. So just think about that as well. So provide value to your clients. Anyone else? Sorry, Michelle, you are absolutely not getting added to my database, but I appreciate that. I don't bring agents onto my database, guys. Sorry.
The other thing we can work on too is what Keller Williams brings to the table, that we can pack in your pitch with some great stats and history. And one of the great things that I'm using right now in Keller Williams is the Referral Network. I know in the luxury division alone, there's been $6 billion in referral from agent to agent in luxury this year so far, right? That's about 18% of the transactions of our luxury transactions with Keller Williams, 18% are agent to agent referrals. I think, to me, that's the most pitchable thing that we have with Keller Williams, which is the reason I work with Keller Williams is that 18% of the transactions are agent to agent. It's a legitimate referral network that I can guarantee is better than any other network that I'm aware of. And the reason is because we have such a massive company of 185,000 people around the world. And then if you extract a group out of those 185,000, that's a true network. Like if, like Sotheby's, for example, they're all kind of luxury. So that's not really a network. It's just like one company that thinks they're luxury. But if you have this massive company and then you can extract higher price point agents out of them and group them together, and then refer 20% of the business between each other, it's a legitimate network that's absolutely marketable when you're sitting there in a listing presentation. You can talk about yourself all day and that's great, but I think you got to pitch Keller Williams too and what they bring to the table. It's a massive organization. It's the #1 most successful real estate company in the world. It's the #1 largest real estate company in the world. It's the best of everything in the world. I don't know what else you want to leverage. That's great leverage that you work with a great company, you know.
Preach it,
The
Dean.
fact that that company generates 20% referral agent to agent. I mean, if I was a listing agent, that would be the #1. If I was a client, that would be the #1 most important thing for me, to know that there's a legitimate referral network around the country and that I can legitimately expose their property around the country to a legitimate group of people that actually are in this business of luxury. I know. I think it's a great thing.
I agree. Carol, you had a comment or a question?
I'm sorry. Okay, so this is for Dean. I know you're going to set up a Zoom, but can you give us like maybe the top 5 or top 10, you know, for your listing, what to concentrate on, for what you concentrate on?
I mean, I can give you the top 1. There's only really one for me, and that is identifying your niche and then creating a business around one niche. And I think Bob Cartwright sort of was the guy that I looked at during my growing up careers and watched what he did. And he was a classic example of how he just took over a market. He came in, and then if you owned a property in the Whaler, Kaanapali Ali'i, or the Kaanapali Shores in the last 35 years, you've gotten something from Bob Cartwright every month, mail out, some sort of a thing. He's a farming machine that absolutely obliterated and dominated that Kaanapali oceanfront condo. He did nothing else. When I was in Kapalua and he had a prospect ask about Kapalua, he would call me so that I could tell him where it is and where he needs to go and how to find the place. He didn't even know his way around Kapalua, but he owned those markets and he's had just huge, great success. One of the most successful agents of all time on Maui, and how he created his business is very similar to my strategy, which is such hyper focus and on a particular you know, small little niche to get to the big picture. And for me, there's nothing else other than honing in on a niche and farming it. And I can give you some help on what that farming looks like, because I think that's just too long of a conversation right now. But there's nothing else other than the first point would be to find a niche that you're going to focus on for the next 10 years, and you're going to own that niche and you're going to win it. And whatever that is, we can take it from there, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just a long conversation, but we can do it another time.
Awesome. Anything else, guys, before we're finished up?
Hey, I was hoping to make an announcement.
Do it.
Go ahead.
Okay. First off, thank you so much, Dean and Todd. Sharing your wisdom and these really great insights directly from Gary is awesome. And just everybody listen to these guys, because they are not just talking, they apply all of this, and it shows in their continuous success every year. I just want to remind everybody that we have the dessert social today from 1 to 3 at EL Park. We don't, especially after COVID, as agents, we haven't had a lot of time to just socialize and connect and have deeper conversations. Dean was saying about those 10 questions. Who are we? Why are we doing this? And KW Culture cares about our community and being able to connect with each other. So we're going to have some desserts are contributed from different parts of the world and different cultures. And we're going to have some real estate trivia and games, and it should be fun. So that's at EL Park today from 1 to 3 p.m. and you're all invited.
I just want to say, Jonathan, you frickin' rock, man. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I have other plans that I've had for a few weeks, so I won't be able to attend, but I love your excitement, your happiness, and you're always wanting to hang out and do stuff, especially with the teams. I really appreciate that. I know everybody up top sees what you do, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
And Jonathan's another great example of somebody who 2 years ago decided to get very hyper-focused on what he was doing and go pull his numbers the last couple of years. He's really killed it. It's an amazing to watch that he decided he wanted to do something and made a game plan for it and executed it. So just a great example of this company teaching you some really cool tools, taking advantage of them, and expanding. I personally wasn't doing the kind of volume that Dean was doing back before I got here. I was only doing about 12 to 15 million a year. And outside of my very first year here, I don't think I've done less than 50 since then. So I've really just learned a ton from the systems, the structures, and more importantly, just the people, being able to ask questions and bounce ideas. Dean will probably tell you the very first year we were together, I probably called him every other week asking questions, him and Lee Potts. So, these were...
He was working for a different company too.
It's true. But, there's a lot of those masterminding, and I like talking with other agents that are, closing, 50 to 100 million and just really picking their brain as well. And they call me. It's a lot of fun, and we share a lot of ideas. I came from a company that definitely was not about sharing ideas, and to come here, my mind has been
right. I agree with Todd. Yeah, totally agree with Todd. I mean, for me, the culture is really the draw for this company. I thought it was money. I thought it was referrals. I thought it was the split and all that crap. But ultimately, I really settled in on the culture, and I've just really, I can't tell you how exciting it is for me to be able to learn and to be able to grow. I'm like 25 years into this business. I'm ancient. You can see my gray hair. But ultimately, what's really motivating me right now is the fact that I've grown so much over the last few years, and that I've completely flipped my business. I do nothing the same as I did for the first 20 years of my career in the last few years. And I changed 100% as an individual and as a human being, what I do with my time, how much time I get off, what I do when I'm not working. It's been a really amazing run for me. We're in the right company. There's no question about it. And the culture is really what motivates and drives us. No one else has it.
That's so true. How many times, just in the last 2 years, me and Dean have had this conversation back and forth, because we get recruited a lot by a lot of companies who offer the pie in the sky, and we both come back to the exact same scenario of it's just not Keller Williams. It's very true statement, guys, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are getting bombarded from other companies. And just remember, you can have a higher split, great, but you know what? You can have a better split here by just capping, keep going, and you have more tools here.
And it's not about the splits. Coldwell Banker has offered me whatever I want.
Yeah.
And it's not good enough. So, I think ultimately there's more to it. Split is nothing. I've never been somebody that said, I want to contribute because I want to be respected and I want to bring something to the table. I want to be a part of something. I don't want 100% commission, But ultimately there's more to it. And, life is short, man. Let's enjoy it. That's a lot of Kool-Aid for one day, guys.
Yeah,
I never thought I'd be a guy. I never thought I'd be a Kool-Aid guy, I have to be honest with you. And I never thought I'd be a guy who would ever go to a conference when it took Colette 2 years, the biggest joke of the company. It took the longest person that ever took to recruit. but I wasn't sure. And I said, there's no way I'll ever go to a conference of 18,000 people. That's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but I've been to every one so far. So, I'm hooked, man. I'm hooked. And every chance I get, I'm already booked for Orlando. I already booked for us. I love it. And, it's an amazing experience because that's where you really feel the culture and people. And I've made some amazing friends. And I've, 2, 3 groups a week that I meet with on Zoom, and we all sit there and share what's working for us. It's awesome. Yeah. And these are all major players, right?
Yep. Dean is dead on. I really highly suggest going to family reunion. I mean, you will not believe first how many people you get to network there and get to know. And when you're there, don't go hanging out with Keller Williams agents.
Right.
Go expand your horizons. Be vulnerable. My team, we have the goal when we go out there is how many cards can we get? How many people did we talk to? And it's not just talking, it's really establishing
networking. Yeah, it's not handing cards out. People go there and they put cards on all the chairs.
Yeah,
and think that's it's not that. And you have to be very purposeful about it. When I went to my first one, it was insane. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was so I wanted to make something out of something, to meet people. And I'd heard about this high level, like the top agents in the company had this private meeting that was going on, like a cocktail party. And so I actually went to the hotel that it was at and actually gate crashed the party. And I was walked in, the person walked by the thing, a tray of champagne. I grabbed a glass of champagne. I just walked in and I was there for like 2 minutes and the entire room stopped, went quiet, and they all formed a circle around the room and started going around the circle, telling everyone, updating where they were. And I was like, they got to me and they're like, who the hell is this guy? And, they ended up letting me stay and join in. I'm still network and still meet those people all the time and some of the top people in the company. But I was just sort of like, I don't give a rip, and I'm going to go in there and just make some contacts and meet some people. And I just walked into this thing and it's the craziest thing ever. I thought I was insane. And then, like, where are you from? I'm from Maui, and all of a sudden everything was okay. So it's awesome. When you go there too, you're going to know that whenever you have a badge that says Maui, it'll stop everyone in their tracks, and everyone just loves the fact that you're from Maui. And it's a great opportunity. You're already one step ahead.
Yep. And when you're in those meetings, Dean, how many times people say to you, hey, I'm coming to Maui soon?
Absolutely.
I mean,
I get tremendous referrals. I think I've done like 4 or 5 presentations on panels and these things, and I still continue to do them. I just did one the other day for a group of 500 people. It's crazy. But those people follow me on Instagram. They refer people to me. I mean, it's very random. I get a call from a guy who says, I saw you 3 years ago in family reunion, got a client coming to Maui. It's crazy. And I've been able to build a great referral business, and it's a big part of our business, right? We market like crazy until we don't need to market. And I think that's a lot of that is building a referral base and not being stressed out about where your next deal coming from. They're just coming, right?
Great call. Anybody ever has questions, comments, you feel free to reach out to myself or Dean anytime you want. I'm usually in my office. I'm by Kihei. We have our own mega office just a few doors down from the main office. So feel free to come by, talk story anytime you guys want. We love it. This is how we all get better together. Would you agree, Dean?
I have a red and white office in Whalers Village. And it's very cool, very hip and modern. You got to come check it out. It's red and white. So come visit me. And I'm in Whalers. Whenever you want to come over, I'll be happy to meet you.
Thanks, guys. Anything else? I think me and Dean are done. I have no other questions. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Ray. See you guys. Have fun.
All right, see you guys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Yep.